So we're on the train, the bikes are stowed away safely. It's about 8:05, the train's going to go in a few minutes' time. It takes 4 hours to get to Inverness, which seems like an incredibly long time, but I'm sure we'll enjoy every moment not having to pedal the train and just taking in the views. So yeah, it's been an incredible adventure. It really has been an adventure.
It seems like months ago that we started in Cornwall in those blistering hot temperatures in our first couple of days, and the trepidation before we set off.
Every day has been exciting. Every day has brought new challenges and new experiences.
We finished yesterday at about 5 o'clock. We did about 70 miles to get to John O'Groats in, again, fairly horrid conditions. The climbing in the morning was quite tough.
Right then. You've got to pick your letters out if you've worked out what you want.
Yeah. See you in 2 weeks.
We had looked at many routes that other people had taken, but one in particular stood out. Alan Pusey had made the journey in 2003, and he built a website to help others plan their own journey. We went to see him to talk about his route.
Alan, this is the route that you actually followed.
It is, yeah.
How did you decide on the route?
Well, there was various things we wanted, really. I mean, first of all, we wanted to avoid major roads, so we wanted to enjoy the trip,
Right.
and it was very much about the journey, not necessarily about the finish. I mean, when we actually got to John O'Groats, it was a bit of an anticlimax, to be honest with you, and it was the journey that made the whole trip worthwhile. So we wanted to enjoy it, we wanted to be away from traffic, and wanted to see parts of the wonderful countryside that we got in the UK. So that was really the ethos behind how we chose the route. We had 2 weeks to do the trip in, so we thought, well, we'll segment the trip up into those daily trips over roughly about 70 odd miles or thereabouts to fit in. We used part of the CTC scenic route as well as to get us started on the route, because when we did this in 2003 there was very little information on the internet available to us where other people could share their routes, so it was really much relying on good old photocopies and books and articles we could find to help us along the way. We kept away from the A30 because, I mean, when you live in this part of the world, you know how busy the A30 is, especially on the first Saturday of the school holidays. You do not go anywhere near it, and I would never cycle on the A30 at any time of day or year because it's just a very, very busy major trunk route. So we came out of Land's End and took some B roads which head us towards St Buryan. And we got to Marazion, which is just literally just the other side of Mount St Michael, and there's a fantastic pasty shop there.
So we left Land's End about an hour and a half ago, and we've just arrived in Marazion. Good run from Land's End. Nice little back roads, quite hilly, but nothing too much. Nice weather, very, very light breeze, and so we're going to stop here for about 15 minutes, eat our pasty, and then head on towards Lostwithiel. We've stopped here at a place called Godolphin Cross, 5 3/4 miles from Helston, and Will's just adjusting his saddle because it's not quite in the right position, because he changed it just before we went on the ride. Really, really fantastic scenery, and so glad we didn't take the main A30 route. What do you reckon, Will?
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, it is up and down, but in fact, with a view such as this, we wouldn't have seen that. We'd have just seen cars and caravans and everything else going past us all day. So this is the proper Cornwall, so we are so pleased we've come this way, despite the fact that the legs are falling off.
We headed down to towards what was called the King Harry Ferry, which goes across the river just above St Justin Rose and Falmouth.
So here we are, we've just boarded the King Harry Ferry, which is going across the River Fell. Luckily cycles and foot passengers go free.
Most cyclists will actually take the A30. It's the quickest way out of Cornwall, it's the least hilly. But you don't really see the county, you don't see the lovely little creeks and inlets that you get down on the coast. And I think it was worth the hills. We were really lucky with the weather. We had a very light tailwind as well, so no head-on winds at all. Just really ran out of energy about 5 miles ago, so I'm pleased we've got here. We're just ordering our dinner now and set off tomorrow morning up round Oakhampton and down to Exeter. About the same distance again, 65 to 70 miles in total.
Very brief start into day 2. We left Lostwithiel probably about an hour ago. We are going at a reasonable speed, although again it's going quite up and down, so we've not had a good opportunity to warm the legs up.
We've just left the main road, as Will said. We're about an hour out of Lostwithiel, quite close to East Tap House, just pulled off at. And we're now slowly making our way up towards Lidford and then on towards Oakhampton. I reckon Oakhampton's about 4 hours away.
Came off the main road and headed up to Minions, which is on Bodmin Moor, and I think is the highest village in Cornwall. Yeah. And so we left all the traffic behind us and kind of this beautiful sort of lane which gradually rose up to Minions.
We've actually just stopped and met another fellow cyclist from North Carolina who's going the other way, who unfortunately over 20 days has had 3 dry days now. This is his 3rd dry day. We're just going to take in the view for a bit, and then we've got a long, hopefully steady descent as we come off the tops from Minions. We are now 24 miles from Lostwithiel, where we set off this morning, and we are just crossing the River Tamar at Horsebridge, and this actually marks the county boundary between Cornwall and Devon.
Yeah, we're in Lidford, about halfway to Exeter on day 2. Lovely little village, very pretty, old castle, old church, and just dropped down into the to the top of the gorge where the bridge is and back up the other side. Very, very steep. Still getting lots of really steep hills, but beautiful countryside.
There's a cycle track that starts just around Lidford Way called the Granite Way, which is an off-road cycle track which follows the old railway line up to Oakhampton. And so you're following the edge of Dartmoor, you're sort of contouring round, so you're not going over it, which is a good thing. Again, because it's an off-road cycle track, no traffic at all, beautiful, and you see lots of families using it. It's a cracking route.
Okay, we're on the Granite Viaduct, which is on the Granite Cycleway. We're about 7 miles from Oakhampton, and it is a fantastic view. We're way up above the ground here, looking behind us towards Dartmoor.
Lovely route this though, it's National Cycle Route 27, which has taken over the Granite Viaduct. I've just looked over the edge and got dizzy.
The off-road route then finishes at Oakhampton railway station, and then you follow what was the old A30 back from Oakhampton back into Exeter. Yep. So it's very, very quiet with traffic these days. I mean, the maintenance of the road is obviously downgraded, so it's a bit rough in places, but it's still a very wide road, very quiet from traffic.
Great day today. We've travelled 72 miles, arrived in Exeter about 7 o'clock this evening, and absolutely fantastic day. Really, really tough hills at the start, but they sort of got more gentle as the day went on.
Hi.
Stayed at my sister's last night, and this morning for breakfast we had hog's pudding, which is another Devon favourite. So we're all refreshed and ready to go, and today we're setting off for Chepstow.
Bye.
The route from Exeter north is on the old A38 before they built the M5. So again, it's a bit like before with the A30 coming into Exeter. It's not as well maintained. It's a bit, the surface is not smooth. It's quite, but it's a good route, and it's a fast route. So we absolutely hammered our way up to Taunton. Having had the hills of Devon and Cornwall to start with, things start to flatten out here.
We left Exeter this morning, it's about 9:15. We've made superb progress this morning, doing about 20 miles, 21 miles or so, and we're just crossing the border into Somerset.
What have you got?
2 energy drinks and a flapjack and a packet of bananas.
So we finished the ride about 2 weeks ago, and we thought it'd be a good idea if we both did a sort of like a little epilogue to talk about the things that worked and the things that maybe didn't work quite so well on the ride. In the back of my mind, I had this idea because I'd done this journey before, supporting 2 bikes, and I'd seen quite a lot of aggressive car driving, people venting their anguish on the 2 cyclists I was filming because they felt they were in the way, they were going too slowly, and that's not very nice. And I just thought, well, if we've got shirts on that say, look, we're riding from Land's End to John O'Groats, and we're doing this for a great charity, maybe we'd get just a little bit more sympathy from the car drivers. The shirts were fabulous. They did their job in every way. They raised more money for Help for Heroes, and they kept us safer, which I think was a great thing, so I thoroughly recommend those.
The route takes you into Taunton, the actual Taunton town centre. And then the cycle route that we followed, the NCR3, follows the canal out of Taunton and then works its way up towards Bridgewater.
It's about 1 o'clock on day 3. We're by the canal. We've followed the canal out of Taunton, and we're probably about 3 or 4 miles north of Taunton now. It's very pretty and very quiet, so we're just rolling along nicely. We've made it as far as Woolhavington, to this glorious bus shelter. We've decided to pop in here. We've done about 60 miles, we've skirted around Bridgewater. We've made fairly slow progress. It's not the quickest of routes, but it's flat, so our legs still feel strong, so I think we've got plenty of strength to get through the rest of the day.
Went across the Somerset levels, which again were lanes, and it was almost like doing a sort of like this sort of thing where you just, the dead straight lane, you go across a level, hit a junction, you go across and up again, and then you followed almost like that.
Stepping.
Yeah, but it's dead flat.
Here we are, we've just arrived on the Avon Bridge. We're right by the very busy motorway, although we've got a lovely view of the river and looking upstream from here. We are going to be crossing down to Avonmouth and then going across the Severn Bridge into Wales and then along to Chepstow, and that's where we finish our 3rd night.
Best bit of road I think was Western in Gordano. Just flew along there. We had a tailwind, the sun was out and it was blue sky again after we'd had that rain earlier in the day, and we flew. We were probably averaging about 20 miles an hour with the full packs. And we were going over the Severn Bridge as the sun was setting. All in all, it was a tough day. It was a long way. We saw a lot of Somerset. It was gorgeous. Obviously, the middle bit's like a billiard table, so that was lovely to ride across. We had an awful lot of car drivers tooting their horns and putting their thumbs up and so on, which was really nice. They'd obviously seen the shirts, and they politely waited till they got past us before they blew their horns to show that it was actually in support rather than in anger. And as one guy in particular was driving a vintage tractor, it was 1949, and he was taking it to a show. And he pulled in to see us and see how we were. And I found out that this total stranger I met on the road knew my great uncle who ran a farm in that valley, which was amazing. I think absolutely amazing. What a small world it really is.
Get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 5, 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine, 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with all the beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out.
Well, we're here at Tintern Abbey, literally 5 miles on the nose from Chepstow, which we left only a few minutes ago. We had 2 short, sharp hills to climb, and then we seemed to drop forever. 2.5 mile hill through the lovely wooded hillsides of the Wye Valley. Absolutely incredible.
Do you have future real bright? And it's a combination of consistency. Come on and sing, oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. With another sunrise, it's a brand new day, so gonna make a little list to keep the worries away. I gotta dance just a little bit, move to be free, keep my head.
Right, we're 10 miles in from Chepstow. We just stopped for a quick drink and maybe a banana or something. We're crossing the River Wye here, which is the first time we've actually crossed it. And we just stopped to also take in the view because it's absolutely beautiful.
It's just gone 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're quite a bit off our route at the moment because about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, we found ourselves going up some really, really narrow, very steep tracks, very close to the point at which we left Monmouth. And whilst they were following the road to a point, they were actually going over the valleys. And we found that our speed was dropping down to 4 or 5 miles an hour. So we made a quick decision and decided to leave those tracks and cut across to Hereford. And we're now following the A4110 up towards Knighton and then across to Clun. So we're going to rejoin our route, and we're going to certainly stay tonight at the place we planned.
Now what we did was we planned the route and we looked in terms of distance for the day, in part about how hilly that was, but what we didn't look about was the suitability in terms of taking the bikes that we had.
Well, we're about 4 miles from Knighton now in a place called Brampton Bryan. Look at this hedge, it's fantastic. You wouldn't want to cut that, would you? Look at that.
Another sunrise, it's a brand new day, so gonna make a little list to keep the worries away. I gotta dance just a little bit, move to be free, keep my head up, don't forget to be me. Like I won $1 million, like a hit to pay dirt. Gonna smile from ear to ear, the kind that makes your face hurt. And we'll laugh, jump, sing loud, not afraid to shout about being happy, living it out. Take a look and see a beautiful morning that turns into a beautiful evening, and together make a beautiful life. And if you wanna see, then come along with me, that's right. And if you want a good tomorrow, it's pretty simple, gotta find a light to follow. And if you do, you have a future real bright. And it's a combination of consistency. Come on and sing, oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on.
Day 4, we've arrived in Clun, finally. It seems like about an hour and a quarter ago we were in a place called Knighton, which is only 6 miles away. And the hills between there and here were just awful for the end of a day. I mean, I think we've done about 76 miles today. So what really happened was, first part of the day, gorgeous. Left Chepstow, went through the Wye Valley. It was absolutely stunning. Tintern Abbey, everything around there was just beautiful. And then suddenly, the route took us off into the hills, and we really, I mean, I talked about this earlier, but we hit some really, really hard hills, to the extent that we actually had to leave that route because we couldn't even push the loads up the hills, below ride them. So we cut across onto Main A Road up to Hereford, and that was fine. Followed those roads all the way through, and to Knighton, and then on up to Clun. But of course the problem was we hadn't looked at the geography because it wasn't our planned route. And the last 6 miles from Knighton to here have just been a grind. My goodness, we must have climbed hundreds and hundreds of feet, and at the end of which to drop all the way down, up again, and then finally down into Clun. Anyway, the weather's been lovely. The ride has generally been gorgeous. There's been some fantastic views. This little pub looks great. We're going to go and try the local beer in a minute, have a nice big dinner, and hopefully be fresh for tomorrow. For most of the time we were riding in line, not in parallel, because a lot of the roads wouldn't really allow you to ride in parallel. So you weren't having a constant conversation with each other. During those times you'd be humming a little tune to yourself, and in the evenings we'd check up with each other what tunes we hummed that day, and we had the most disparate, eclectic range of music you could have ever imagined, from very heavy-duty classics right through to some incredibly horrible, lightweight sort of kitsch pop. But it was amusing. It was one of the dimensions of the journey which was very enjoyable.
I think riding with company is one of the absolute joys of the trip. We set out on this trip saying it's going to be a holiday, and it was. And we were very lucky that we had very similar riding styles. In terms of our overall pace, our overall endurance, we were both so finely matched. It was an absolute boon. That really contributed enormously to the trip.
Okay, we've just pulled in on the side of the A49 about 12 miles outside Shrewsbury. We set off from Clun this morning about just under 2 hours ago, and we've covered about 22 miles. We've changed our strategy for the day. We were originally, of course, sticking to our planned route, but because we made such poor time yesterday and the day before, we really felt we were both under-rested, and we need to get to our next location for tonight earlier so we can have more time to rest. So we're off to Chester. We should get there late mid-afternoon, which will be great. The A49 is not an interesting road. It's fast, it's got lots of traffic on it, as you can see. But it's relatively smooth, and it does take out a lot of the hills, so it's giving us really good rapid progress. So I should have researched the geography more, not just the actual route and the little roads and so on, but actually what was the terrain like. Because you need to do that, you really do, because if you could be going on a mountain bike, a road bike, a touring bike, you could have support, carry almost no luggage at all, or you could have no support and be carrying many kilograms of equipment. So you need to look at the routes carefully, and we came away from that route on 3 days because, one, we were trying to make up time, and two, we were just very worried that some of those roads would not be suitable for our kind of bikes. This is a snack break about 7 miles south of Whitchurch.
Every 10 miles, for example, we would try and take a 5-10 minute break, have a bit of a drink or a little bit of food or something like that, or it might only need to be a minute or so, but just enough to break that ride. So every hour or every 10 miles or whatever it, however it worked out. But that was very important because it meant that we never quite ran out. We didn't feel thirsty, we didn't feel hungry, we didn't run out of energy. We could keep going and going and going. We've just arrived at Chester. This is the end of our day 5. We've got another mile or two before we find the hotel. It's been quite a hard slog. We've come along the A49 and then the A41, so we've stuck to the A roads, which has been quite flat, fairly busy traffic-wise, but actually quite a nice, gentle, steady road, no sharp hills, that sort of thing.
Day 5. Good day. Just checked into the hotel in Chester and had a shower and done some laundry. Rung home, told everybody where we are. So we did 71 miles today. As I said earlier in the day, we decided to take a much faster, more direct route so that we could get some time to rest. And that's worked out because we got here at about 4:45. Just turned 400 miles today. So we've now got about 600 and something to go. Maybe tomorrow we get halfway. So we've got Chester to Sedbergh tomorrow, and I know that's around about the 100-mile mark. So we've got shirts and cycling shorts there drying in the shower, and then all the kit over here, unpacked what I've needed for the evening and so on, and basically all the technical kit down at this end. You can see I'm charging the little mini cameras, the Wi-Fi back, the Wi-Fi remote that goes in the handlebars, my iPhone of course, which is acting as our sat-nav system, and the charger there sitting ready for the camera, which I'm actually filming with at the moment. In the little boxes we've got spare cards and spare cassettes, various other things, and of course here's our little mascot which my wife very kindly made for us, and he's got a little Land's End John O'Groats logo on the back of him and a little St Christopher on the front, and he's called Bob.
So we left Chester about an hour and 10 minutes ago, and we're about 14 miles in to our next day. We made the same decision again today to actually try and make the route more efficient for us, because we've got a long way to go today. It's probably well over 100 miles. So we decided to take the A49, which will give us the shortest run straight up to Lancaster and then cut across to Sedbergh. I've stopped here because 3 years ago I made a programme about two guys from our village who cycled from Land's End to John O'Groats. This was part of their route, the A49, and I stopped here today because I stopped exactly here 3 years ago to film them. It was pouring with rain, it was a miserable day, and I got them sweeping down the hill behind me and across and through and back out the other side. So I thought it would be, for old time's sake, we'd stop here again. I made this film 3 years ago, where I was the support car, and I thought then I would like to ride this myself, not least because when I was in Land's End, the very nice lady who was giving the certificates out for you to fill in so that you could hang it on the wall when you got home, she offered me one. And I said, well, I'm driving in a support car. She said, well, that's all right, you can still have one. And I thought, how proud would I not be to hang a certificate on the wall that said I'd actually driven in a car from Land's End to John O'Groats. And I thought, I'd like to cycle this one day as well. I'll do that. About 5 miles, 6 miles south of Wigan now. Stopped off in Warrington at a big supermarket, bought ourselves some provisions. Roads are really busy, and as I say, I'm not really going to bother to film them because there's nothing to look at. Lots of traffic, lots of built-up areas, lots of industrial estates. So food-wise, we got ourselves a couple of sandwiches, ham sandwiches, a couple of bananas each, and a couple of power drinks in there, and then in the and then a nice big tray of flapjacks for later on. They're a bit heavy actually, poor old Will's got to carry those. So not for long, no.
We stopped at filling stations and local convenience stores, and really it was like a supermarket sweep. We grabbed what we could find that was going to be reasonably suitable. High energy bars, drinks, lots of water, that sort of thing, a couple of bananas, and we were off again. We didn't get a chance to look out for or to try the local food or anything like that. It just simply wasn't time.
It just so happens that my daughter Emma is studying nutritional science, so we asked her advice.
So we've got a typical selection of the sort of foods that we can buy.
Okay, replenishing liquids is very important. We'll start off with the water. You're going to be sweating a fair amount when you're cycling. You want to make sure that you have enough water before you start your ride and replenish it every sort of 20 minutes or so, depending on how much you're sweating. Energy drinks, such as this one, are generally well nutritionally balanced. They provide things such as electrolytes, which you lose when you sweat, and are another good alternative to replacing fluids. Something like cola is fairly high in sugar and doesn't offer an awful lot else in terms of nutrients and minerals, so not the best thing to have when you're out cycling. We've got a Cornish pasty, pork pie and Scotch eggs. These are all fairly high in fat. What you want to try and remember is when you're out cycling, doing any endurance exercise, you want to go with 65% carbohydrates, 15% lipids or fats, and 20% protein. These are very high in fat. Fat is more difficult to digest, more difficult to absorb. Although it is a form of energy, it's going to take a while for you to feel that energy, and you'll feel extremely full after you've eaten any of these.
So not so good.
Not the best option to go for. Something like pasta, which is a lot higher in carbohydrates. Although this is white pasta, whole grain may be a better option because it's richer in fibre. The richer in fibre, the better source of carbohydrate. If we go over here to the crisps, again, they do offer a certain amount of carbohydrates, but they are also loaded in fat and salt. Again, if that's your only option, by all means eat it. And then we've got sandwiches over here. Again, you've got your not your good and your bad, but your better and your not so good. You've got the brown bread here, which is a better source of fibre. So you've got your carbohydrates, you've got white bread over here, which is going to give you, again, the blood sugar high. This one has also got a lot of cheese in it, which, again, when we're going back to this, a lot of fat, a lot of protein, which is going to be difficult to digest and absorb, so not the best option. Something over here, we've got eggs in here, which is the best source of protein that you can have. You've also got a little bit of fat in there with the sausage meat, but by all means, it's not bad. It's not a bad option to go for. The tuna is probably the best. It's got vitamins, it's got minerals that you find within the tuna, and it's got the slowly releasing carbohydrates that you've got in the bread as well.
So it's probably the best balance.
Probably the best one to go for, I would say. If you want something sweet when you're cycling, cereal bars, not weight loss bars because they're low in carbohydrates, cereal bars and high energy bars are better to go for when you're cycling. The oats are slow releasing energy, they've got seeds, bit of fruit in there. We've also got the fruit next to it, which is a very good source of carbohydrate. These will be slow releasing, the apples and the orange, slower releasing carbohydrates than the banana. The banana is a good source of potassium, which you'll be losing to a certain extent when you're sweating. But it is slightly higher in sugar, so it's better to combine something like this and the water is a good alternative to the power drink. By the time you finish your exercise, your muscles are going to be pretty much completely depleted of the glycogen, which is the storage carbohydrate that you have within your muscles. What you want to do is you want to try and replace that carbohydrate as quickly as possible when you get off your bike. So something like the cake or the chocolate will do this. Fairly rapidly. What you want to try and avoid when you finish your exercise are slower releasing carbohydrates, like the lactose you find in milk, fructose that you find in fruit, because it doesn't give you the energy quick enough.
So here we are in the middle of Wigan. This is Wigan Pier. So another refuel stop. Here we are in Lancaster, just outside Lancaster, heading towards Kirkby Lonsdale. It's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon and we've just completed 80 miles, about 25 to go. Quick drink here and then we better set off again because we want to get there before the dark sets in. End of day 6, got to Sedbergh about 7:45. Pretty little village. It seems to take forever to get here. I think they've got a different kind of miles up here.
We've run up from Chester today, of course, and most of it was pretty sort of boring, straightforward A roads, A49, A6, just wanted to get some miles behind us. But as soon as we turned off at Lancaster, the road up to Kirkby Lonsdale and then on to Sebra was just fabulous. The views are great, it's a rolling road, it's not very steep anywhere, it just follows the river valley. Had a bit of a disaster. We hit some rumble strips about a mile, 2 miles before Sebra, and my iPhone mount came off the bike and the iPhone just smashed on the ground. I thought the car behind me was going to run over it, but he didn't. I stopped, ran back up the hill, and the iPhone was just sitting on the road. It's a bit mangled, but it works.
We've just left Sebra. We've done about 5 miles and we're about to come underneath the M6. We're going to be travelling up through Penrith today and then on to Carlisle and finishing up the day about 100 miles, 105 miles later in Dalry. Quite a long ride today. We've got some hilly bits, as you can see around us, for the start of the day. And hopefully that'll be about the first third, and then after that it'll flatten out quite nicely.
After leaving Sedbergh, we followed Alan's original planned route, which ran along either side of the M6, joining the A6 just after Shap Fell.
We're way up above the M6 on a back road across to Shap, where we'll pick up the A6. It's very, very windy. The good news is the wind is a westerly, southwesterly, so it's going to be helping to push us along as soon as we hit the A6, all the way down to Penrith and to Carlisle. It's been tough going. We're about 15 miles out of Sedbergh from this morning, nearly 2 hours it's taken us to get here. Lots of climbs, an awful lot of climbs, because of course we're going round Shap Fell effectively, but so we've still got a lot of climb to do. But we should pick up the A6 in about another 2 miles, and then hopefully it's going to be a good clear run down to Penrith and on to Carlisle. We've just reached Carlisle. It's just before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're slightly ahead of schedule. Very good run from Penrith. The A6 all the way, very fast road of course, but very undulating, great for the bike, more down than up. We're now more or less in the centre of Carlisle. It's quite sunny, but it's incredibly windy. The wind's actually getting quite dangerous because it's very blustery. It has been predominantly behind us, but now it's all over the place and it is blowing us around the road a bit. So I hope as we turn off left towards Dumfries, we don't get it head on. I'm sort of slightly concerned we will do that.
We then headed Carlisle and we passed our halfway point by this stage, and we headed up over towards Gretna.
Yep.
Across there's a fairly flat road, an A road that goes out, and it wasn't too bad traffic-wise, into Gretna. And then there's a lovely little B road that sort of follows the coast to the west here through a place called Annan. I do remember a headwind coming along this route here, and we got to Dumfries.
We've just arrived at Gretna and we thought we'd mark this by stopping by the Welcome to Scotland sign. So we're feeling very welcome, if not blown all around the place. We're going to carry on. We've got another 35-40 miles to do now. So we're not stopping for long, but we're in Scotland, another milestone.
Okay, so it's the end of day 7, and you know, plans are made to be broken, aren't they? And we've done that today, because we were meant to be staying in Dalry, which is about 25 miles further on from here.
We had terrible winds after Carlisle, absolutely terrible, going 30, 40 miles an hour. We were being blown across the road. Our average speed went down to about 7 or 8 miles an hour, and we worked out that we would not get to our location until midnight at the earliest. The people who ran it were very kind and said they wouldn't charge us for the lost night. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Do you book your accommodation ahead to make sure that you've got it and it's there waiting for you, you know, when you arrive cold and tired and hungry? Or do you leave it to chance, see how you fare that particular day and book when you arrive, if you can? And in a lot of places, especially in the more remote parts of Scotland, you just couldn't do that. So we booked 13 days accommodation in advance, and that meant that every day we had to arrive, we had to get there, or the whole thing went down like a stack of dominoes. You lose one night, you could possibly lose them all. I think what we should have done is plan at least 1, if not 2 days rest, so that if something goes wrong, if you get a mechanical failure, if you just get really bad weather or an injury, it gives you an opportunity to actually catch up. So we immediately set to looking for somewhere in Dumfries, and Will's wife found somewhere for us. And we rang them and booked it, and we got 2 really lovely rooms, really nice place actually. But slightly disappointing, it's 25 miles short. However, we've still covered just on 90 miles in a day. We've increased tomorrow's ride now, of course. We've now got 90 miles to our Drossen to catch the ferry. So we're going to have an early breakfast, early start, and hopefully get the 6 o'clock ferry. The morning of day 8, and we're in Dumfries. Stayed over last night, about 25 miles short of where we're expected to be, but because of the awful weather. Seems better this morning, the wind's lightened up, there's a little bit of blue sky. The weather is still colder and more windy than down south, but promise of improvement during the day. So we've now got a long day ahead of us to get to our Drossen to get the ferry across to Arran. We've just got to get our heads down and pedal. Don't know how many times we'll film today because we really have got to make up some time. We've got a 6 o'clock ferry to catch. So this might be the last report for today. We'll see how we get on.
But we ended up taking the A75 out of Dumfries, which was a horribly busy trunk road. Just a one track, you know, just a normal, not dual carriageway in places, but mainly just single road either side. But lots of lorries going to the ferry at Stranraer. So we were very relieved to come off that road, and then there's a lovely A road here that took us up, dead quiet, nobody around, and you'd go up for this gentle climb up to the top, and then you've got this beautiful descent where you've got this rolling bends as you go down towards it.
Right, we're about 12, 13 miles outside Dumfries now, on our way to Dalray, as I was told this morning is how to say it, Dalray. From there we go on up to our Drossen. The countryside is beautiful, the roads are lovely, undulating, slight climb all the time it seems at the moment, but the wind's in our face and it's meant to be a southwesterly. Well, it's not, it's a northwesterly, and we're travelling in a northwesterly direction.
We're taking a short break now. We're at Balmaclellan, which is about 25 miles to the east-northeast of Dumfries, because this is why we're on holiday. This is absolutely gorgeous. And actually the lowlands, people say go to the highlands, but the lowlands really can be spectacular too. The scenery is lovely. Knowing where you're going is possibly the most important part of any trip. What we did have was a sat-nav programme on Graham's phone.
What we did on that was we loaded all the GPX files that I'd got from Alan Pusey's website, and at home, before we left, I downloaded all of the map tiles because I knew that there would be points on the route where we had no phone signal. I couldn't rely upon 3G or just our straight phone signal to pick up the maps because we just didn't have one on some days. I had a handlebar mount for the phone, and which is waterproof. Set the thing up each morning with our route for the day, And it was fantastic. It was just the most brilliant way to navigate our way from one end of the country to the other. But on top of that, of course, I was able to record our own tracks. So what you've been watching on these Google Earth maps on the programme are our actual tracks. Sped up hugely, of course.
It meant that the flow of the ride could actually then keep going, and that was one of the best things I think that we took with us.
So just stopped off about 6 miles north of Dalray, stopping for some lunch. Done about 35 miles so far. Found a fantastic little grocery shop in Dalray. Bought some homemade ham and cheese rolls, some lovely chocolate cake, banana, got some power drinks, and in Will's bar bag he's got some oat cakes as well, so we should be all right for the next few miles. Wind's dropped down a bit, although we're way up high now, probably the highest that we've been today. And it looks like we're going to drop down now for a long run towards Ayr.
We headed out of Ayr to catch this ferry, and we originally were going to catch the mid-afternoon ferry, but there was one at sort of 12:30, something like that, so we thought we can catch that. Started going for it, got slightly lost, ended up doing a bit of cycle cross as we got off the bikes, over a barrier, crossed the dual carriageway to pick up the route into Ardrossan. Because the problem we had there was that there is an NCR cycle route that goes to Ardrossan, but the signage is very localised.
So we have arrived at the ferry terminal at Ardrossan on 5 o'clock, 1 hour before the ferry's due to go. So we're really, really pleased. These are the ferry line tickets. These are called a hopscotch number 5, because what they do is they'll get you onto the island at Brodick, and then they'll get you off the island at Lacranza. But we're on the ferry now for 55 minutes until we disembark at Brodick. Staying at a hotel in Brodick, and which I believe is about 400 metres from the quay, so we've got the rest of the day off. It's nice and warm on here. We just had a nice cup of hot chocolate. Good day. Really, really pleased with the result. Morning, day 9, on the Isle of Arran at Brodick. It's been a bit drizzly earlier on, but it seems to be clearing a bit now. It's absolutely beautiful out there. Heading off around the island today to Lacranza. We take the ferry and go across to the mainland and on up to Oban. It's funny to think we've ridden all the way here by bike from Land's End. Almost 700 miles.
Where are we? Just left?
We just left Brodick.
Brodick, that's it. We just left Brodick, we're about 5 miles out. We keep stopping. We've probably spent an hour nearly doing the first 5 miles because we keep turning a corner and going, wow, look at that, it's absolutely great. The wind has dropped today, so far it's dry, and I think the cycling should be good today, so we've got about 80 miles to go and we are really looking forward to it. This is one of our better days.
Followed the route around the edge of the island, sort of going anti-clockwise up to Lacranza.
Okay.
Dead flat, beautiful scenery. Right. And then just before you get to Lacranza, you then go up this pass up and across and then drop down a beautiful mountain pass, and then you've got this long descent where you
drop
just
down to the-
head
yeah,
down,
right.
woof, into Loch Ranza.
1, 2, 3, 4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing 5, 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with all its beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out. I want to sing and shout, take a look and see a beautiful morning that turns into a beautiful evening, and together make a beautiful life. And if you wanna see, then come along with me, that's right. And if you want a good tomorrow, it's pretty simple, gotta find a light to follow. And if you do, you have a future real bright. And it's a combination.
So here we are on Loch Ranza, across the other side of Arran, just waiting for the ferry to come across.
And there's a little climb out of the ferry port, and then you drop down, and there's this lovely, quiet, rolling A road that sort of follows its way past Tarbert, Loch Gilhead, all the way up to Oban. And it was a beautiful cycle, glorious cycle, very quiet. The A road, you know, good surface in a lot of areas, not quite so good in, you know, as the maintenance had gone down a little bit, but beautiful cycling. And we got into Oban, and Oban's a lovely little town, quite busy.
It's a fantastic bit of road we're on at the moment. It's almost windless. If there's any wind, it's a slight tailwind. The road we're on at the moment has been following the coastline, so it's almost completely flat. It's been lovely. We've really got some good speed up, and we probably averaged about 12 to 15 miles an hour at least over the last hour.
This is the road to Oban. Once we've left the coastline, we go over the hills, and it's just, at the moment, I can see it's going to get hilly, but right now it's been really flat and long, and we've covered 5 miles in almost no time at all. So quite fast road, not a lot of traffic, but what traffic there is goes whizzing past us.
Came down this hill just around the corner, and look at this view. Just had to stop. Ride with company for all of the right reasons. They are there for the good times. They're there to share the great view you've just seen round the corner or over the brow of a hill. They're there to share the laughs and the funny things that you know happen on the route.
When you are sharing those experiences, the first thing you want to do is turn round or shout ahead and say, "Hey, did you see that?" Or "Wasn't that hill an absolute pig?"
But they're also there to prop you, and you're there to prop them up as well. When it's not such a good time, when it's very cold, when it's raining, when you're not feeling brilliant, they're there to help you. And that works so well because you don't want to let each other down.
Although we didn't say so at the time, I think either one of us could have very easily stopped and said, I've had enough of this trip. The weather's been lousy today and whatever, but they carried on going for the other one.
Even if you're leading, you can hear somebody behind you. You can hear somebody else going through exactly what you're going through, and it really does lift your spirits.
And that really was one of the major factors in getting us both from Land's End to John O'Groats. I think we actually completed the trip for the other one.
Six o'clock, we're 7 miles from Oban. Mainly flat, but a couple of stinger hills. Really quite high, but then fantastic runs down. Oban, we're here. Just on 7 o'clock, I think. It's a lovely clear evening. 2 or 3 miles to where we're staying, which is just slightly up the road from Oban.
There's not much more I can add to today really. We had a great ride. Try and find some good rain gear in Fort William because mine's awful. Need something that's got some kind of breathing in it because what I've got at the moment is awful. It's like wearing a carrier bag.
And the road out of here, Oban, is quite a busy road. Yep. Another A road. And we headed our way up so far on the A road before we turned off and then really picked our way along the coast, along another A road into Ballahirish and Glencoe. Yep.
I am pleased by just the simple little things of the little things of life. And I promise if you take the time, you won't be looking for too long before you find this little secret of mine.
So we're now about sort of 14 miles north of Oban on our way up to Fort William and on to Fort Augustus. The view here, I keep saying this everywhere we go, but look at that, isn't that wonderful? Look at that. Just over 20 miles out of our last night's stay at Connell. Pretty good road. We've had just one or two tiny hills, but generally just undulating and dropping down to the waterside. Very fast, but not many cars in it. There's been some quite nice sections of cycle track. They're lovely, they're beautifully tarmacked, lovely and smooth, and they're sort of landscapes as well. They're really good. The only trouble is they last for about half a mile and then disappear off up into the mountains and then reappear a mile later. We used them for stretches, but ultimately came back onto the road.
I am pleased by just the simple little things of the little things of life. And I promise if you take the time, you won't be looking for too long before you find this little secret of mine. It's a hello from a friend.
Now, of course, it's a cycling holiday, and one of the main things that you need to have on a cycling holiday is a good bike. We relied on our bikes. We didn't have a single mechanical, we didn't have a puncture, we didn't have a breakdown, which is absolutely incredible. This is the bike that I'll be using for the trip. It's not a new bike, I've had it for about 10 years now. And it's not the first time it's done Land's John O'Groats. I actually did that the first time on this bike in 2003. So this is its second trip. It's a Cannondale T800 Tourer, aluminium frame. I've got some additional low rider pannier racks onto which smaller bags will attach. I've actually got a suspension seat post in there, which has seen good service, but that helps my rider comfort, particularly with an aluminium frame. One of the biggest changes I've actually made to it, which is more for my own comfort as I've got older particularly as well, is to actually change the arrangement and the height of the bars. So you can see this, I've actually picked up the stem so I'm actually sitting in a more upright position. And instead of the drop handlebars which I had on it previously, what I've done is I've actually fitted wider bars which have come off tandem. Being wider, it's more comfortable for me in my upright position and also for my shoulder width.
The bike that I'm taking with me to do the journey is a Dawes Super Galaxy, a typical choice for a long touring journey such as we're undertaking. Very classic English touring bike, steel frame, so you've got a bit of extra comfort over aluminium. Front of the bike, I've just got a little bar end mirror here. I do like to see what's coming up behind me. On the back of the bike, I've put a Schwalbe Marathon Plus. So this has got a little bit of extra protection in against the punctures, because it's the back end of the bike that's going to take most of the weight. 2 standard bottles, as big as I can get, because you see I'll hit the frame if I get any larger. This strange contraption here is a monopod, which I've mounted to the bike rack using cable ties. I can raise this up like so, and I mount my GoPro camera right up on the top there. It's going to film right over the top of me and Will. It'll get both of us in frame and our view. So it's a really good view. It's much better than going on the helmet, because on the helmet, every time you turn to look at traffic, look at your mirror, you swing the camera across. I've got a very good 180-degree rear light on here, which has got 2 separate circuits on it. I will ride with that on the whole time because I just like the safety.
So we came out of Ballachuish, and there's the Corran ferry that goes across the loch. Just as you head north on the main Fort William road, the Corran ferry is there. Came across, and there's this lovely quiet lane that goes up the other side of the loch to Fort William.
Right.
The only problem is you get to the other end, and the ferry at the other end that takes you into Fort William is a little boat, and they sort of plant your bikes along the side of the cabin, and you jump in the back. Yeah. But you've got to pick your ferry times.
The forecast was for rain, and we didn't want to chance the ferry times at Fort William, so we decided to stay on the A road on the south side of the loch.
Right, we've just arrived in Fort William. It's lunchtime, it's about 1 o'clock. The road is a super road to follow along. We've had a bit of a tailwind, and it's a very nicely, gently undulating but fast road coming in. We're just going to head through Fort William and find the head of the Caledonian Canal cycle route, which is by the fort, and that should then take us along to Fort Augustus. We had planned on cycling up the side of the Caledonian Canal, but it wasn't until we stopped in Fort William and we dropped into a local bike shop, and while chatting we said that was our plan. The guy said, well, what kind of bikes are you on? And when we said, well, we're on touring bikes, he said, well, the surface just isn't suitable. You really need mounted bikes for that. We have set off up the Great Glen from Fort William, and we've just taken a quick stop outside the memorial to the commandos here. They trained obviously in the hills around us, and they must have been very, very tough guys because there are some very big hills here. And we've got about another 20 miles to go to Fort Augustus, so we're refuelling, we're paying our respects here. Of course, the ride that we're doing is also raising money for Help for Heroes, so we felt that was a useful thing to do. So, well done, boys.
So this is the A82 running alongside the Great Glen. Some of the surface is fantastic, it's been replaced, it's brand new, and some of it, like this stuff here, absolutely horrible. All of that just shakes you. It's like every bone in your body is being shaken and jarred. Everything in the bags is rattling. The scale of everything is unbelievable. Difficult to see on this camera, but I mean, these mountains are just enormous. The Great Glen, of course, is this huge geological fault line that runs diagonally up across Scotland from Fort William to Inverness.
It's about a hello from a friend or a
Day 10, and we're in Fort Augustus. Weather's actually improved slightly. It was raining for the last 4 or 5 miles as we came into Fort Augustus. The rain came on fairly heavily. Stopped in Fort William, and I bought myself a much better waterproof jacket because the one I had was awful. So I've got a really good one, a very high vis as well. Staying at a lovely, lovely B&B. And we got a cup of tea and lemon cake when we arrived, which was fantastic.
It's the simple things for me. Oh, oh, oh.
So here we are in Fort Augustus, looking across to Loch Ness, and these are the locks that join the Loch Ness to the Caledonian Canal, which will allow these boats to go all the way down to Fort William. So start of day 11, sun's out, there's a light westerly breeze.
headed up here, and we came up to Dronadrock.
We're just travelling up the Great Glen at the side of Loch Ness. We're going to get to Drumnadrochit, and that's where we turn off this road and we head north, and we've got some really quite steep climbs to come there.
Out the back of there was this, I think, a 1 in 6 hill.
Big climb.
Big climb. Yeah. And it was a steady up, and it was the steepest climb we'd had since Devon and Cornwall, I think, and it was quite long as well. Yeah. And we made it to the top, and then the reward was that you had this beautiful decline all the way down through these moorland scenery, beautiful winding, quiet road, headed down, came out at Dingwall.
We're here in a town called, well, I didn't want to have to say it because it's either Bewley or Bowley, and I'm not quite sure which. So when I get back, I'll check up on the pronunciation. Anyway, it's quite a pretty little town. The terrain's changed enormously. When we left Loch Ness, we went through Drumnadrochit and up an incredibly steep hill from almost sea level to 725 feet in about a mile and a half. That was really, really tough. Then the terrain sort of softened, and we went through some heather moorland for about 5 miles and then slowly dropped down into a valley. Pastoral, farmlandy kind of area, very, very green and lush, and we've come down a lot in height. We're going down now towards Dingwall, and then we're going to go around Cromarty Firth, so I imagine it's going to be quite flat there.
I just wanted to very quickly record Graham's comment of the day. As we came out of Drumnadrochit, we came up 700 odd feet worth of hill up onto the tops. And at the top he said, I don't mind these hills at all. The thing I do mind is having to push a bike up at the same time.
When I booked the accommodation, I had a sort of list of criteria that I needed to meet. The first and most important was, of course, that it was either on or very close to our route. But one of the things I didn't consider at all, and I really should have thought about this, was do you have any drying facilities? Because if you go in the summer or in the sort of early part of the autumn, the chances are the heating's not switched on. And there's likely to be nothing in your room that you can dry your clothes on. You'd hang them over the door, you'd hang them over the cold radiator or a towel rail in the bathroom, whatever, over the shower. And just hope that it dried by the morning. But as many times as it did, they didn't. And we had to wrap them up in polythene bags, put them in the panniers to stop everything else getting wet. And of course, by the next night when you took them out to dry again, they were a bit smelly. And the sock thing worked well. I bought as many pairs of socks as there were days of the ride, and I just threw them away each night because they were pennies. So didn't even have to think about washing those, just chuck them. We've just I've forgotten the name of the town. Andes.
Eventon.
No, that's Eventon, yeah.
That's Eventon that we just...
We'll forget okay.
I can't remember what
right, no, so it doesn't matter.
So we've come off the A9 before somewhere that we don't know what it's called, and we're somewhere else and we're not quite sure what that is either. But we're doing well.
We're doing brilliantly.
Very informative little piece, this.
We've left the A9 about 2-3 miles ago, which was horrible. We were only on it for about 2 miles in total because we just missed the turning we should have taken. And we joined it and immediately caught all the traffic coming across Cromarty Firth from Inverness. And it was just horrible, so we've come back off it. You've got this feeling you're on top of the world because it's very quiet. There are no birds singing. There's a bit of wind. But when there isn't any traffic, there's nothing. Absolutely nothing. And all of the sides of the roads are covered in heather. And there are some areas, not here unfortunately, but some areas where it's just a complete blanket of a sort of lilac-y purple colour. It's really lovely, really is. And you can see all the gorse that would be out at a different time of the year because all the seed pods are here. And in May, June, this would be just sort of a golden orange colour. And it has its own character. It's quite different from the Great Glen.
I'm on top of the world, now I'm living. And the good just gets better, keeps on giving. Not even close to the end, it's just beginning. Life is getting lighter while the days are getting brighter, yeah. And it's a good, I won't even worry anymore. Took all my cares, still can kick them all out the door. Go on and try, come and tell me what you're waiting for. Move world can stop me now, no. And on the music I will ride on the beat, play my guitar while I'm stomping my feet, yeah. I gotta celebrate life and get excited about good times and good living. Come on, shout it out, hey!
I think most of the other stuff that's happened today we've talked about en route. The only thing I didn't mention was that last night I was persuaded, in fact, to have deep fried haggis and chips, which was an experience. Nice though it is, it's probably not terribly good for you. I think we're just around about 900 miles in now, and 140, 150 to go, something like that over the next 2 days. Tomorrow we set off for Tongue, a couple more days. I think you can just have so much cycling in one short period of time. And as much as we love it, it's we've probably had enough for the moment, actually.
We rose out of Bonner Bridge though, a couple of shortish climbs, fairly long, slow ascents, and we seem to be on a bit of a plateau now. It is cold, we could do with an overcoat each.
We're on the A836, I think it is, isn't it? The A836 to Tongue. Look, this is an A road. Look, it's a single carriageway. That's the widest bit there is there, actually. Look at that. That's what it is. The A836. So I think we've got this for about 20 miles now until we get to the Crask Inn. I expect, even with the windshield on the mic, you can probably feel and hear the wind. Well, I can feel it, you can hear it. And again, we've got this fabulous Scottish road surface, which I've come to love. We had packed some warm clothes for Scotland because we realised with a 700-mile latitude change from south to north that we would probably get some cooler weather. We're travelling unsupported, so everything that I'm taking is on the table in front of me and I've got to carry it. And on the table I've got my bike repair kit, I've got my on-bike clothes, I've got my off-bike clothes, I've got all the panniers and the various other kinds of kit that I'm taking, like the handlebar bag and the rack bag here. And of course, I've got all my camera kit because I'm filming the whole journey. So first of all, in the bag on the back of the rack, I'll have all of my bike tools and puncture repair kit, plus my wet gear. So I've got 2 spare tubes, I've got some patches, I've got some power links in case we get a break on the chain, tyre levers, standard multi-tool with Allen keys, screwdrivers. I've got a torch which we're taking along just in case we get some really dark days. Some cable ties, these are fantastic. You can repair just about anything with one of these. Same goes for electrical tape. You can do an awful lot of repair work with that as well. I've got some spare brake blocks and I brought some barrier gloves basically. They're just latex gloves. And I've got a multi-tool with a chain tool in there as well so I can replace the link if it does break. I've got my off-bike gear, basically got polo shirt, underwear, and then I'm going to be wearing shorts. And if it's a cold night or cold evening, I've got a nice light fleece that I can take with me. 2 pairs of cycling glasses, one with reactor-like lenses on, one with interchangeable dark and clear lenses. Then I've got rain gear, so I've got my trousers here, and I've got windproof gilet, and I've got a waterproof jacket there. 2 pairs of cycling gloves, 3 pairs of padded cycling shorts. I've got 2 pairs of shorts and some long leggings if it's a cold day. The 3 on-bike sponsor shirts, which we've got, and a thermal vest, long-sleeved, if it's a really cold day.
We could cope with rain and a bit of cold and whatever, but we didn't count quite on the extremes of weather we're going to get.
In Scotland, it was down to 6 degrees on the last 2 days. I was wearing 5 layers of clothing and I was still cold. I only packed 1 fleece. They're not heavy, they're light things, they're a bit bulky, but I had the room in the panniers. I should have taken 2 fleeces. If one got wet, then I'd have a spare to fall back upon, or I might even put 2 on at the same time. Beautiful countryside, but I'd rather see it without this wind and the rain. We're not making very good progress. We're doing about 7 or 8 miles now because this wind sometimes is absolutely hitting us head on and we're just wobbling all over the road. Luckily there's not much traffic. It's very pretty here. I mean, look at these little streams. You just stop at the side of any road
and you get these little brooks and all the moss that you get everywhere. Look at this. We've just stopped here because it's about as out of the wind as we can possibly get because there's some trees around, but actually it's still pretty cold. I'm going to stop now, I'm just shaking too much.
We went through Larg and there was a place called the Crask Inn. It's a white inn in the middle of nowhere, just right beside the road.
It is literally in the middle of this sort of blankness between Bonner Bridge and Tongue. We were going to drop in there for a hot chocolate and lift our spirits and move on, and we ended up staying there for about an hour and a half because the rain continued to go sideways. Anyway, it subsided, and about 2:30 we set off on our way again. Catching it in just between the showers, just to look at that amazing view we're getting as we're riding down towards Tongue now. We're about 8 miles out. Don't get this in West Berkshire.
Warmer in West Berkshire.
That's true.
Take it up, take it over, take it out of control. Today I'm free of my soul, and now you got me singing. Oh, hey, I'm feeling fine, smiling big, feeling right like I should. Life is better than good, yeah, you got me singing. Oh, hey,
We're right at the top of the hill above Tongue now. The wind's blowing westerly. It's blowing us all over the place. The sun comes out for about 30 seconds and then the rain comes in for 5 minutes, and it's just been like that all the time. We're dropping down into Tongue and across the estuary to our night stop. We can't stay here any longer, we're just going to get blown away. The scenery's magnificent, it's quite amazing, but we're now right at the very top of Scotland. Tomorrow we turn right and go east to John O'Groats.
And then you drop down into the Carl of Tongue, and you just beautiful drop into it with this wonderful mountains, and you've got the sea in front of you.
So, an eventful day, some incredible scenery and some incredible weather actually. The weather itself was quite beautiful. Rainbows over sunny valleys, but in between us and the valley was this huge rainstorm. Incredibly dramatic, incredibly powerful, and quite bleak. So tomorrow it's off for John O'Groats, which is absolutely due west of here. Hardly any further north, really, just a little, but due west. If we get a westerly tomorrow, it'll blow us all the way to the finish line. So that's it for day 12.
We're on the hills up above Tongue now. We've just climbed up about 300 feet, looking across to where we stayed last night, across the other side of the estuary. We're on the way to Thurso and on to John O'Groats, 60 odd miles to go.
Take it up, take it over, take it out of control. Today I'm freeing my soul and now you got me singing. Oh, hey, I'm feeling fine, smiling big, feeling right like I should. Life is better than good, yeah, you got me singing. Oh, hey, I'm standing up on top of the world tonight, and everything's working out just right. And while the world is spinning, it's a brand new beginning, and I'm finally winning. Hey.
Totally quiet roads, and the first part of this through Betty Hill here, follow the road, was just, you know, quiet, beautiful scenery, you know, the coastline and the bays all coming in, just, yeah, just absolutely fabulous.
I think we've got through most of the hills actually for the day. Now, we've been told that once we get into Caithness, it begins to level out a bit. And we were told that was about 20 miles. So we haven't found the sign yet, but it must be pretty soon. So I think the biggest of the hills are behind us. So now with the wind on our backs, we should be sailing along to Thurso, getting there in perhaps 2 or 3 hours' time.
Obviously, as part of what Graham's taking, he's taking a lot of weight. I'm carrying the lion's share of the tools. I'm taking a good, strong lock. Just taking the one between us and a cable which will help us tie both bikes together. We've got chain lube, puncture repair kit, and tyre levers. A pump. I've got a small multi-tool, a small pair of pliers. I've got a chain whip, a tool for removing bottom bracket and the cranks. Also carrying just a few spares of a selection of different bolts, spare spoke nipples, and of course a spoke key. I shall also be carrying a small first aid kit, ibuprofen, spare cable, and that's double-ended, so it doubles up as either a brake or a gear cable. We're also going to carry a spare set of brake blocks, spare tubes, and hopefully I can actually effect most roadside repairs there.
"12 miles from Thurso." See, the landscape's changed quite considerably here. All the sort of high, craggy mountains have gone, and we've got this rolling moorland with lots of heathers and so on. And right over there is, I think, Dounreay Nuclear Power Station.
Carried on to John O'Groats, and the scenery definitely changed after Thurso into much more gentle, but we were cycling into a vicious headwind.
We have arrived at John O'Groats after 13 days. We arrived here just after 4:30 in the afternoon, and it is all about the journey. It's not about arriving, because there's nothing to arrive to. Even the guy who does the post has taken the posts down, the signpost down, and he's gone home. So there's just a stick in the ground, so which is a bit miserable, really. But it wasn't about getting here. It was about doing that journey and about visiting all the fantastically interesting places on the way. But what do you reckon? What do you reckon?
Well, we've done 1,000 miles together and it is a fabulous achievement. I am so pleased that we've made it. We've been through some wonderful parts of the country. We have had every weather conceivable. We've had sunburn, we've nearly pulled over thinking we're going to die through cold and lost feeling in fingers and feet. We've done well, we're really proud of ourselves. I'm very happy to have finished, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've bought ourselves a special treat because it's 6 degrees, it's windy, very windy, and we've bought ourselves a taxi to Wick. So we're not going to cycle back 17 miles to town. We're actually going to get a taxi back. And you may all think that's chickening out, but I think after 1,042 miles, we deserve it.
Yeah.